What's good, everybody? It's your boy Big Nate. Welcome to Big Nate's Book Reviews, home of the best book reviews. And today we are reviewing the Iliad by the one and the only Homer. So I got my doobie right here. It is ready to be sparked. And today we are smoking this one for Homer. So if you guys should doobie at home, go ahead and spark that. And then without further ado, delay, or awaitment, let's get into the book. But while I'm sparking the doobie, allow me to say that you really ought to, in fact, get to my podcast, Big Nate Short Story Club, which is, in fact, of course, the home of the best short story clubs, because the latest episode, for instance, was done on Franz Kafka. You may have heard of him, one of the greatest writers of the 20th century, and we did In the Penal Colony, one of my favorite short stories of all time, one of the most famous stories by Kafka as well. So, you know, that's neither here or there. I'm not even going to mention it. Nor am I going to mention the fact why I sparked this doobie that it was, you know, one of the best episodes we've done to date. But without, I hate when shit happens. Whatever, hold up. Without further ado, let's get into the book. So, the Iliad was published. Nah, just playing. The Iliad wasn't really published. Who knows? Actually, it was originally thought to be transmitted orally. There's actually some like controversy as to whether or not it was transmitted orally or whether it was written. But anyway, the Iliad was created nearly 3,000 years ago, and the fact that it was written before the Odyssey, in my book, makes it basically the start of the entire Western canon. This is one of the oldest and easily one of the most influential books ever written in the history of literature. It was taught, along with the Odyssey, it was taught all throughout ancient Greece, throughout the Byzantine Empire, the Middle Ages, the Enlightenment, all the way up to the day, and it's going to be taught for as long as there is literature to teach. This is what we call a book that has stood the test of time. So honestly, there's so many, oh dude, this fucking lighter, that's gonna be a problem. But there is like so many references and influences that the Iliad has had on major works of literature. It's like just too big a task to even go into, but I'll just name like a couple. For instance, Dante, Shakespeare, Goethe, and, you know, of course, the one and only Madeline Miller. You may have heard a Song of Achilles, but hold up. Okay, watch me. I can't let this shit go out, because if it does, I'm gonna have to stop and get a new lighter. But anyway, I think really one of the biggest testaments to the importance of this book is the fact that Socrates, you also may have heard of him, creator of all Western philosophy, when he was forced to drink the poison hemlock, he, of all things, among his final words, he invoked the famous lines by Achilles. I don't know what translation he had, but the line he evoked was, "Then let me die at once rather than sit here on the beaked ships, a useless weight on the good green earth." Some shit like that. Famous line by Achilles, and this is what this motherfucker said before he drank poison, the creator. So you have Socrates invoking Homer. So that's just the standard quality and caliber of writing that we are currently working with the Iliad, which, like I said, is one of the greatest works of literature of all time. Now, what is the Iliad about? Just really briefly, really, at the end of the day, is war. Like, it's just a fucking war. But, like, you know, in the beginning, so this takes place 9 years into the Trojan War. And at the beginning of the Iliad, low-key Achilles gets into a beef with Greek king and war hero, although he's low-key a fucking pussy in the Iliad. But Agamemnon, they get into a beef, and, like, long story short, Agamemnon has done a great disrespect and a great dishonor to Achilles, who vows thenceforth to not participate in the Trojan War until the Trojans have beat the Achaeans all the way back to the beaked ships. After which, he is ultimately fated to kill also my dog. Literally, I swear to God, he waits until I start this shit. But ultimately, Achilles is fated to kill Hector, after which Achilles himself is going to die. No spoilers, it's all, you're supposed to know the plot, etc., etc. But, you know, Achilles doesn't actually dude, this lighter is going, you know what, hold on, I'll be right back. That's some oh, I can't even find one. Bruh, you got me so fucked up. What does it take to fucking find a lighter like this? You for real? Okay, I couldn't find a lighter. This is the only one I got. So, oh yeah, that's what I fucking thought. So anyway, Yeah, Achilles doesn't pop up until the Iliad. Till he's in the beginning, and he's here and there, but he doesn't really come into the Iliad until like 2/3 of the way through the book, and then he does the whole Hector thing. But until then, it's, you know, everything in between that is straight up just war. Like, there's no other way around it. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, we get to meet characters, and there's deception, and there's the gods, and there's tactics. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, it's just war, literally. And that is like the theme of this book. You know, it can be looked at a few different angles, a couple different levels, but like the Iliad is a story about war. And one aspect of it, which I think is really interesting and was obviously more so a thing back in cultures back then, but you know, we pretend like it's not a thing now, but you know, it's just as relevant then as it was today. The fact that this book is a celebration of war, because there are actual, like, interestingly, like, virtuous things in war. Like, just so, okay, before we get to that, just at the most basic level, the level of the writing, Homer describes the Greek heroes as, and the Trojan heroes as, like, there's a ton of like animal imagery, beasts of prey, like, you know, boars or lions or like stallions, and you know, these motherfuckers are galloping down the plains, just thundering in their pride, just flinging their head back, mane streaming back, just glorious animals, just galloping, running onto the battlefield. You know, their armor is like glittering like the sun in the sky. Like, literally, some of the most beautiful lines in this book are just in celebration of war. You got them laughing, you know, laughing deeply with joy when they're charging. Like, literally, what I love is battle. The last thing you want to do is be fucking stuck in the ships. What they love is battle. The lovely give and take of war. You know, this is a culture that is not afraid to admit that war is something around which their honors and their virtues are surrounded against. And you know, honestly, I would argue like the same is kind of true today. We just like kind of hide it more. But you know, it's shit like, just like, as a society, some of the most honorable, inspirational figures that are looked at as like icons of virtue are soldiers, are people in the war, where it's like you got the soldier bravely leading his at great risk to himself, bravely leading the charge of his soldiers against enemy lines. A grenade gets thrown up in the trench, and then, you know, the soldier heroically jumps over to protect his comrades, or like the soldier last stand against all the odds, but bravely and perseveres and endures against all the enemy, like showing no fear and like, these are things we literally give awards of honor to, or medals of honor to. Like, as a society, these are things we genuinely value. Like, some, you know, like, it's kind of a dumb example, I guess, but you know, like, war stories and heroes, that's you know, like, on social media, it's the ones that show great bravery, the point I'm really trying to say is that, like it or not, some of the highest virtues that we have as a species they find their truest expression in war. Their truest place is on the battlefield, and it's like all these things I just said. And like, you know, if you're a soldier in war, the undeniable thrill of it, of being like on the front lines, especially in these days where it's like it's not a distant war where you're like shooting with guns. It's like, dude, you have like spears and swords and bow and arrows and shit, and it's like hand-to-hand comp. So the thrill of just like rushing down, and then it's like these motherfuckers are prepared for, they've been training for this. So just like low-key, like the power and the excitement. It's what Nietzsche would call the rapturous ardors of victory and destruction. It's just like, bro, you and the homies, your Greek brethren are charging this fucking field against another army that's gonna clash. And like, again, it's just this, it's a place of honor and glory and heroism. It's, you know, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, at least in the Iliad, it's like a beautiful thing to see. And the fact too that, you know, the thrill of war comes from the fact that it's like the risk is in the stakes, right? It's like, your life is on the line. And that's shit that like we as a species, we're like just attracted to. Like, people do free solo rock climbing, you know, where one little wrong move and you tumbling down the hill. What's that shit? Parkour. People jumping from like buildings and shit. Like, you could wrong slip and you are and like, again, as a society, we watch that. Like, if you start watching those videos, you can't stop. And it's like, we go to that shit like moths to a flame. And then fucking Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian, he says his philosophy is basically that war is the ultimate game. The ultimate game in which your stakes is the life. Your life is the stakes. And then and then it's like you're doing it in battle too. You know what I'm saying? So like it's you and another person, say it's like a duel or just like a battlefield. It's you and another person imagine you're on the front line. Like that's the thing. You have to like really imagine that shit. And you get into a like killing match basically. And if you can come out first off the excitement, the thrill, and it's like, you know, if it's already gonna happen, there's something interesting to be said about like enjoying it, like even embracing that thrill, right? But if you come out victorious, there can't be a better rapturous. It's Nietzsche, rapturous ardors of victory. It's like gotta be an ecstatic like like there was no better moment in your life than when you overpower an enemy to save your own life, and it's like you did it in an honorable way. You got your homies around you like that. Like you see what I'm saying, Ali? Like and we're gonna talk. It's not like Homer just romanticizes war, but there are undeniable, bro. Even just shit like video games, bro. Like billion-dollar industry. What are the most popular video games? War games. In some way or another, it's all war games. It's Warzone, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Black Ops, Civilization, shit like that, bro. It's just we are, again, as a society, we are fascinated with it. We want to live through it vicariously. Anyway, I just wanted to throw some of that stuff in there. Okay, plus the fact too, I forgot about this shit about the Iliad. It's like people talk hella shit. It's funny. It's like they get into this shit. Like I'm not gonna say they're having fun, but they're kind of like having fun. Like I said, they're laughing as they're galloping down the plains with joy. And it's like you got a part where, for instance, Patroclus, like, and this is all throughout the story. It's actually quite funny. But Patroclus stabs a motherfucker so hard he dives over the chariot. Woo. Dives, and then Patroclus, who's a savage by the way in the best way, he starts talking shit. He's like, look at the way he just dove from that chariot right there. He said, even these Trojans have their tumblers. What a leap. He said, you should go for oysters. What a leap. Like bro is savage mode, and that's just one of many. And like it's literally like competitive like sports talk, but again, they're at war, you know what I'm saying? Like their lives are on the line. That's what I mean, bro. Like there's something about just like getting into that, embracing it. Like, you know, if you had to go to war and you have to do this anyway, you can let yourself kind of get taken away with the natural organic feelings. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Okay, so now let's talk about the other side of the coin, half of the coin, which is you know, Homer is not romanticizing war. I think far outweighed by whatever glory is in war is horror in war. And I was very taken back by how violent this book was. I mean, it's like it's nothing like crazy, and honestly some of the writing is amazing, but I just did not, again, you think like the Odyssey, you think it's gonna be boring or some shit, and there's like, again, crazy fantasy stuff. The Iliad, you think it's gonna be boring, but it's like, dude, you got shit where it's like, again, it's just at the body pain level, just literally describes like getting stabbed from your crotch to your navel, and like you get your shit split open and your bowels uncoil, spill forth onto the ground, and heads are getting chopped off, and it's like arms are getting like dunk, like they're just getting lopped off like logs. And it's like this part where it's like, bro, he busts out the spinal cord, like rips that shit out, like shit is slashes. It's like, whoa, did not see this coming. And then people screaming in agony, clawing the dust, clawing the earth, just in absolute pain. So it's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Whoa. And then so just at that level right off the bat, it's like, that's one thing, the surface level pain. Homer is like, he does this thing where he'll go on, like, also took me by surprise, he goes on these like tangents all throughout the story. It's like the, you know, royal Odysseus, shining Ajax, they cut motherfucker's head off, and it's like Homer's like, he talked about how the mother gave birth to him on the side of the lake bed, the riverbed, and he remembers when they're like when he was just like a little boy and shit, and it's like, he's never going to be able to repay their parents back for raising him. Now they left him nothing but tears and grief. It's like, bro, and he does that shit like a lot. So the person who just died this most vicious, terrible death, it's like, bro, there's a part where it's like, Homer literally goes so far as to say like, his kin would tear apart his birthright. Like they're like, there's gonna be an inheritance fight and he's gonna lose everything. Like, bro, that's crazy. Like it's like not just here or there. It's very frequent throughout the whole book, and it's like the grief of like Homer lets you know this. It's like the price of victory comes at like this horror where it's like, you know, this person gets killed in the most like kind of low-key epic way, and it's like, but that left parents without children, that left the wives without husband, that left the child without a father. Like Homer, bro, he does not hold back on that shit. And so like the grief of losing these people, and it's like, bro, like, you know, comrades, fellow soldiers, best friends, lovers in the case of like Achilles and Patroclus. There's a part where like Priam, who's the father of Hector, is so racked with grief, he is literally like smearing his head and his neck with shit, like dung, like shit. He's fucking scraping it, groveling in the field. It's like, dude, this book is like high-key savage with that shit. Like Priam is absolutely devastated. So this is the point being, it's not just like war is awesome. It's like, nah, this shit is fucked up. And then at the very end of the book too, like the end of the Trojan War is just, or the Iliad, like if you've read it, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. You finish it feeling like empty, like hollow, like emptied out, like not what actually just like what was the point? That's what it is, because you know it's like tens of thousands, hundreds. If anything, that's my critique of the Iliad, is it's like too much violence. Like it actually kind of gets boring, even though Homer never lets up with new and interesting ways to make amazing imagery for horrible violence. But the point being, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have died. And then it's like you have Hector, the Trojan hero Hector, who, you know, you're following throughout the whole story, and he's almost like a more main character than Achilles, low-key. But Hector dies at the hands of Achilles. Achilles' lover Patroclus, he died at the hands of Hector. And then because Achilles killed Hector, it's part of the destiny that Achilles himself is going to die. Not to mention all the other heroes that we've lost. And it's like, and then it's like on both sides, and it's just like it ends low-key just with Hector dying, which is kind of an emotional moment. Anyway, point is, it's like, what was the point? Like, what has even been accomplished? You go that like this huge, look at this story, bro. Like you go this whole thing, and at the end, it's just like, if in many ways, obviously stuff it feels like nothing nothing happened. But like obviously in terms of the story it did, but in terms of like larger resolution, it's like, bro, that's I think the real tragedy of the Iliad, if you were to ask me. And because it's Big Nate's book reviews, which is home of the best book reviews, you are asking me. Or it's implicitly associated. Yeah, you heard me. Okay, real quick. The gods. We have to talk about the gods, and then because I have a feeling I've been going on way too long, but the gods on Mount Olympus are crazy. They, because like you think it's in the Iliad, or the Odyssey, which it is. Nah, it's, you thought the gods were in the Odyssey. Nah, the gods are in the Iliad. They are like, they have such a presence, it's insane. Like literally, there's even a part which is related to divine intervention, but there's a part where like they've been fighting for 9 years, so like let's just settle this shit with a duel, and everyone's like, yes, I'm down, yes, and they do it, and then it could have been resolved there, but Hera, goddess Hera, tells Athena to like possess a motherfucker who from a Trojan side, who said like shoots an arrow at Menelaus, and the whole thing gets going right, and that was because of the gods. And then they start the whole, like the Iliad Loki could end you right there, but they do shit where it's like they'll freeze a motherfucker, so it's like they have to stand in place, and then meanwhile they get stabbed from their fucking asshole to their nipple. Like literally he gets like anatomical with that shit. But okay, so it's like, or you got a spear right on track, they said flick. They got a bow and arrow right on track, they said blow. Like they're just really getting their hands dirty, very much to like the brutal deaths of the mortals. And like that's a whole thing too, is like the relationship between the mortals and the gods. The mortals are just like playthings to the gods. Like they kind of care, like they are a little bit invested, but it's like literally like you would care in a video game. Anytime it gets too real, you're like, okay, whoa, let's not fight over these mortals. And there's this part too where it's like an epic scene of the book, literally like one of the hardest shit I've ever read, where all the gods Zeus gives everyone permission, all the gods, to march down to Mount Olympus to the Trojan battlefield, and the gods do all out war, and that shit is crazy. But the point being there that afterwards they go home to Mount Olympus. You know, they're like, woo, it's literally like they came home from like a day at the water park at the playground. It's like they had fun, you know, they got in their little costumes, they got in their armor. But the immortals are, there's some quote about like something about immortals can never not be bored. But anyway, so like they have like their day of fun and they come up, and then meanwhile literally Achilles is slaughtering motherfuckers by the tens of thousands, never to repay their loving parents in the most brutal way. Their inheritance is gonna get tore up, all that shit. So and the gods themselves, there's like a book in this that's just like only gods, nothing happens but gods, and it's like this epic deception. Because they're like petty, dude. It's like Hera is trying to trick Zeus. So Hera goes to the demigod Sleep, twin of death, cousin of death, some shit, genius. Which I think Shakespeare got that from the Iliad. But so Hera gets Sleep, and then after she convinces Sleep, and he has to promise him like one of her graces. He's like, hell no. Last time I fucked with Zeus, he got so pissed. He was just throwing motherfuckers from Olympus. And she's like, I'll give you one of my graces. He's like, all right, when should we start? He said, let's get to it. He's just fucking thirsty for that shit. But so then they go, and it's like they turn into animals and they trick Zeus. Anyway, and they bicker with each other. Oh my god, they bicker with each other. There's this hilarious part where it's like when the gods are like fighting, and then Ares comes up and he's like, hold up. This shit's funny though. He comes up and Ares is like, bro, how come you always give like Athena what she wants? When Athena asks for something, you do whatever. It's like, and when I ask, God, no, nothing, can't allow that. And Zeus is like, he said, I hate you most. He said, of all the gods on Olympus, I hate you the most. Like, bro, that's savage. Also, shout out Athena. She's so cool. She's easily the dopest god in the Iliad and the Odyssey, especially so in the Odyssey. But she's pretty funny. Anyway, that's so yeah, all that mixing in with gods, and that's really basically the Iliad. It's like war with gods. Like that's low key what it is. But overall, I give this book either an A+. I will say I might give it like an A, and I want to clarify that an A for classics is better than like an A for Little Life. The only reason it gets docked is because, like, you know, like I said, dude, this book is long. I feel like I forget how many pages. It's like, yeah, it's like 600 of, you know, kind of like big pages, high key. But and you know, a lot of it's just straight up, I'm telling you, like war and violence. So, you know, at least it didn't get like boring like slice of life shit. But it's just like, all right, you know, motherfuckers are getting like skewered and shit. But dude, no, there are some amazing scenes, because anytime it starts to get old, Homer just comes up with better and better writing to just force you to enjoy that shit. It's like, yeah, Homer's writing is, there's a reason this motherfucker is studied across nearly 3,000 years. Motherfucker is crazy. But okay, we're gonna end it there. Get to my podcast, Big Nate's Short Story Club. Links will be in that description. Smash that like. Instagram, follow me on Big Nate's Book Reviews, which is in fact home of the best book reviews. And thank you for watching Big Nate's Book Reviews, home of the best book reviews.